this episode of Nerdly Out Loud podcast, or as I am affectionately calling these ones, the bite-size Nerdly Out Loud podcast. We have got a couple of directors, two co-directors from a short movie called The Mime, which has been entered into a 20th Century Digital. They have studios. They've been putting out these bite-sized horror movies. And today I have Gavin Williams and I have Mark Lediard. Is it Lediard?
Spot on, mate.
Excellent. One of those names that I looked at and I was like, I'm going to mess that up.
You and everybody else.
But how are you guys doing today? How are you?
We're doing well, yeah. No, thank you very much for having us on here today. So it's good to come in and talk about the Mime. Yeah.
Yes, very good. It's the sort of the clocks have gone. Is it forward or back? Basically, it's darker now, so it's a better kind of atmospheric time of the year with much kind of stuff. I think I don't like the sun. I don't like the summer, so I'm like, now we're into the autumn. I'm like, it's my home now. Atmosphere, very good. So
yeah, and I'm an editor when I'm not directing, so I'm used to sort of spending my time in small dark rooms staring at computer screens. So I'm very comfortable now.
Oh, well, you would have loved this lockdown then. This would have been fantastic for you.
Honestly, I haven't even noticed it. Has there been one?
It's funny how many people that I've spoken to recently, especially creatives like yourself on the podcast, where that is the case. It's like, you know what? It pretty much just stayed the same for me. I was indoors editing.
I think the thing about kind of writers and the self-employed is that normally we're the kind of bottom of the pile. Everyone treats us badly. However, we've been training for kind of all our lives just this moment where everyone else is like, I can't go out, and we're going, what is out? There's an out.
I love that. Obviously, co-directors of The Mime, you guys are working together. Gavin Williams, a little bit about yourself. You wrote the movie Await Further Instructions, which I have seen and is absolutely fantastic, which is it's doing bits all over the place. People are loving that movie. So almost an instant cult classic, I would say. It's kind of getting there, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's both Christmas and Brexit, so it kind of it fits all. There's a diagram. It fits together. 2 points.
Yeah, I guess you do hit on a couple of political hot
kind of a lockdown movie as well. Weirdly, people trapped inside. So
it's going to be the most Christmas movie for 2020 that anyone's ever decided to come up with.
So a little bit quickly before we move on, where did that idea come from? Where did the Await Further Instructions come from?
Well, weirdly, it came from, actually, it predates Brexit by about 8 years. I was coming home from it was a New Year's Eve party. So it was kind of stuff, New Year's Day. I think it was 2007 and 2008. So it's a really long time back now. And I was traveling back with my then girlfriend, and I'd given her an album by The National. There's a song called Apartment Story, and there's a lyric, I think it's sort of, stay inside until somebody finds you, do whatever the TV tells you. And that's kind of basically the film. In a way, that's the idea. And I'd been looking for kind of sort of single location horror films that could be micro budget. And it just kind of unfolded from that, about it being kind of that time of year, and also side of people being trapped and being kind of given instructions by the TV and not knowing whether to follow them or not. It was that idea of, it could be, there's conflict, there's drama. Do we follow the rules? Do we follow the instructions, or do we kind of go our own way? So very simple. Normally ideas aren't that simple, but that was
a very British problem as well. Mark Lediard, you've got 20 years experience within music, commercials, shorts, a little bit of everything. And I have to ask, what exactly is metalcore?
I'm so glad you asked me that, Kevin. I haven't a clue, but yeah, no, I've done music videos and I've done commercials and I've done post-production, all kind of types, and editing and directing for years now. So yeah, I mean, one of my kind of things that I did last year, I've done 4 videos now of Mice and Men, who are a kind of huge act in the States. And it was great fun last year. We did 3 videos for them, all kind of horror themed as well, kind of zombie, nuclear apocalypse, weird psychiatric experiments, and it's great fun. Yeah, but I still don't know what metalcore is, other than it's very, very loud.
Yeah, I watched the videos and I was kind of like, I ain't got a clue what this is. So I was hoping you might know a little bit more.
It's whatever they say it is, I think. That's fine.
So how did you sort of come together and decide that you were going to creatively work together?
Well, we'd known each other. I mean, it's a long time, and Mark almost ended up directing a short that I wrote. God, way back. I can't even think when it was, Mark. I don't know if you remember.
I think it's possibly BC, so let's not go there.
Yeah, and so we'd always been friends and saw each other at kind of stuff, local filmmaking events, because we both live around Newcastle and north of England. I'd kind of reached a point where I was really wanting to push my career on. This was before. It was before Wait Further Instructions was released, but I'd started to direct as well. But I kind of wanted to push into features, and I was kind of hitting a wall with projects. And I went to talk to Mark about basically what sort of resources were in the region for people doing things for nothing at all, basically doing a feature on absolutely niche. And then Mark said, had I thought about co-directing? And I hadn't, but actually when we started to talk about it, it became an incredibly kind of snug fit in that kind of I come from a narrative background, working with actors, whereas Mark is this kind of kind of guru of the edit, kind of knows his technique, basically, Mark is kind of sort of Yoda for lenses. So it kind of seemed like it was a good kind of half and half and fit together to make a team which would work very well together. And we kind of had a similar sensibility, I think. Is that, how do you remember it, Mark?
No, I just bought you a pint and said you want to direct, and he went, "Yeah, all right." No, I mean, I think, yeah, I've been trying to write, and I've been trying to sort of investigate that side of my creativity, because you're right, I come from a more technical side where I do commercials, and I know, you're right, cameras, and I know lenses, and I know editing techniques, from now until Christmas. But I wanted to do something more creative, and writing was proving problematic for me, and I thought, well, hang on, what I really want to do is not write my own stuff. I want to work with someone who can write better than me, and much better than me. And so that, led to, yeah, like Gav said, we'd known each other for a long time. So it seemed like a good meet and a good kind of sort of mesh of skills and sensibilities. And I think it's proved that so far. And I think, we're hopeful for that this is going to continue into the future.
I spoke to two lads, I think it was last week, about a horror movie that they'd just made. And it seems to be that co-directing it's definitely going forward. Like, people are taken to it. Do you always think it'll be a case of you're going to have one guy that's the technical guy and one guy's the creative writing side?
No, I hope it'll sort of mesh more than that. And
yeah.
I think, Gav can speak to that, we don't try and sort of say, look, this is my area and this is your area. It's much more amorphous than that. But also, I think co-directing is good, because I think especially if you're not in London and you're not sort of in a big crowd of people, if you're in a smaller region like we are, it can be a lonely business just kind of trying to do this stuff by yourself and trying to sort of plow your own furrow kind of, single-handedly. So I think I'm a collaborator anyway. I like collaborating, especially, like I said, with people who are better than me and who can bring something more to the table. And I think that's the way you can grow this.
And I think, kind of just pick up on what Mark said, there's also something about, I think, in a way, what's interesting about that overlap between the kind of writing at the start and then to the end is we kind of stood at the start is me, and at the end it's Mark, but in the middle is kind of stuff where we're kind of doing, working together on kind of creating a vision and doing storyboards and kind of, and then on set. So the skills mesh, but also we're kind of still blending them together to the greatest output at the kind of the right point, I think. And I do feel also, I think one of the reasons this is a trend, and you're right, I've seen it as well. I mean, it wasn't in our minds that it was a kind of a coming kind of stuff.
Oh, no.
Approach, but I think now you see it. Obviously, the biggest films in the world were a directing team. Endgame, and it's the I can't remember what their names are now, but the chaps.
Yeah, the Russo brothers.
Thank
Captain Marvel as well. Yeah.
I had the Blaine brothers in my head, who were another. Many brothers.
This is where we're missing out. We should be brothers. Should we just rename ourselves?
But the thing that I think is also, I think why it works is it's not just you by yourself. There's a sense of you've got someone else, A, to back you up, but B, to be a check on your worst impulses. So there are creative fights that you have, but you settle them within the team, you compromise, and then it produces something better than again, you can come up individually, or you might go off. But I think what happens is when people get success, they become uneditable. No one can say, don't do that. Is that 6-page monologue really the right thing? And having someone in your duo to go, maybe not, is kind of really helpful.
And that's when you end up with I love him as a director. I really do. I love his movies, but that's when you end up with a Christopher Nolan movie where he just does whatever the hell he wants, and nobody's keeping him in check. In Fox Digital Studios, how did this come about? Did these guys? It's a program that I know they run every year, kind of thing. But did they come to you and ask you because they've heard of you, or did you guys have to pitch for this?
It's the latter. It's a slightly boring answer in that it came through my agents. I'm with Casabata Ramsey and Associates, and it was an opportunity that came through there. And I ended up doing the pitching, but it was the second year. As you're right, they've done it for about 3, maybe even 4 years. It wasn't last year, but the year before, 2018, I pitched and didn't end up kind of getting a commission. It was quite close from the end. The money changed and things kind of stuff. I didn't quite work out that year, but I kind of then knew them, and the guys at 20th Century Digital that now were kind enough to get back in touch and say, did you want another crack at it? They liked one of my pictures a lot, so I came up with another new set. And it's what it is. It's one of the things that, as a writer, you think, oh, when I want to grow up, I want to be a writer, and it'll be great, and I'll be kind of doing this and doing that. Mm-hmm. What you don't realise that you growing up to be a writer is pitching projects via Skype to a boardroom in LA, which is one of the most awkward ways to do it in the world, with all the awkwardness and pauses. And did you get that? I had a year of not getting it to train myself to, okay, this is how you pitch to Skype to LA down a kind of screen. So that was 2019. I think about sort of Marchish time. I did a sort of pitch with about sort of 4 or 5 ideas, then led to the Mime.
And then we actually shot this last summer. So this was actually in the sort of 2019 slate, which then they didn't kind of put out last year at Halloween. I think they were kind of building the slate and they wanted to do some more this year. But then I think with COVID and everything, it all kind of got put together. But yeah, so this was actually filmed last year, but it's great to get it out and released now.
Where did the Mime come from and why mimes? Because I hate mimes.
Again, it's weird because there should be like a really kind of stuff fun, creative, kind of muse-based kind of answer to this. And actually, I was thinking about it. It's much more prosaic, sadly. It's like going, okay, you've got 2 minutes to tell a story. And I knew going into this pitch that it was basically finding something, a little story that had a complete beginning, middle, end that you could kind of cover in 2 minutes. And I'm someone that gets a lot of ideas. I can generate ideas. I just find that quite fun. I see kind of weird suggested things in the environment or in news stories or whatever in my kind of brain. It just kind of will kick off like that. And ideas like this, 2 minutes, horror story, PG, so, no blood and guts, is kind of like a puzzle to me. It's almost like a little kind of thing to solve. So I go, okay, so if it's 2 minutes, then you have to have something instantly. You've got no setup, you've got no exposition, it's bam. What can we see? That we instantly go, okay, I know what it is, and it has to be creepy, and then we get mimes. As you said, mimes, I'm sure most of them are lovely people, but there's something just unnerving and unsettling. So you go instantly, I know a mime, I see them on the street, so I know the setup. Yeah. So then, instantly in that first kind of stuff image, the basis of the story, and then it's kind of riffing around, what could I do? And it was just thinking, well, what if a mime's powers were real, that she could really kind of do the things that she only mimes? How would that become a story? And then you add conflict, and that leads to what we've got.
I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, because people should watch this when it's floating around and everything. But I also love the little boy, because it's kind of one of those things where what is basically happening, although it's quite horrific and it's quite chilling and awful, what is happening, like, I think as a child we all did anyway. We all kind of did that kind of thing, and then you have this little boy sort of watching it, and I really liked that. And I didn't know if that, I'm assuming that was a conscious choice, but I love the fact that you had this little kid watching what was happening, and it just tickled me. It really tickled me. I loved it.
Mark, I think that probably addressed the little boy.
Well, the little boy is my son.
Oh, nice.
In his first starring role, although ever since he's been in this, I think he's a bit of a diva now, so he's clearly going to have a great career. No, he was great. I know you're right. I think it's a lovely point because it's like no one else saw this happen. Everyone else is too involved in their own little worlds except this one kid. And we're all kind of that kid, aren't we? It's a bit kind of Roald Dahl, isn't it? That kid who just saw the weird thing happen and no one's ever going to believe him, but it was real and it happened.
And as a little insight into the performance, I was making nasty faces off camera at him to make him scared. I don't know if that worked or not, but that was my directing choice. I was going.
Yeah. Every time you come round our house now, Gav, he's terrified.
Who is the Mime? Because she is creepy.
Go on, Gav, you tell us.
Well, I mean, it was local auditions. So it's Ruth Mary Johnson, who is amazing. And she came through. We kind of auditioned about sort of 6 or 7 people for the Mime. And she was recommended by a friend of a friend, our composer, Roma Yagnik, who kind of did all the music and has done the music for I think all of my kind of shorts so far. He kind of knows a lot of kind of people in theatre. And Ruth comes from like a clowning background, in fact, and is such a sort of smiley, lovely kind of stuff, plays with sort of almost like a children's entertainer, which is kind of quite good for that kind of shift. So we wanted someone who was a physical performer, had a sort of miming background, and we just sort of loved Ruth. And I think also we were very taken with Ruth is that she has this amazing shock of kind of stuff red hair, and it's just such a brilliant image of the red hair and then the pale face. And so she was just kind of came through auditions, and we knew kind of instantly that she just had that uncanny quality, and she was amazing to work with on the day. In fact, she helped Daniel, who plays the other character, the victim, who's an actor who doesn't have a kind of physical background, but she helped him a lot with kind of stuff some of the miming that he had to do. So yeah.
And just for anyone playing Geordie Bingo, because we're in Newcastle and we filmed this in Newcastle, Daniel Watson used to be in Biker Grove. So
yes.
50 points.
Well, how does this work with these shorts? Is this a case of it's a one and done, or is it kind of like a proof of concept that you may take on further and do a feature with?
I mean, I think the idea was that they had that potential, and that's obviously a challenge, because when you're creating a story, particularly for 2 minutes, it's kind of quite tough to find something that then is, because they're designed to be kind of stuff almost designed to be these little sort of sharp shocks, and I think the ones that work best are like that. So I think kind of I was sort of joking at the time is that probably there wasn't a feature because it was just about evil mime, but I think some of the concept, it's not to say that it couldn't become something else, and obviously there is, as you say, something very creepy about mimes, but also some of the techniques that we kind of used in this idea of kind of some of those mime powers, the kind of the invisible walls, the ability to kind of trap people almost like a fly in amber. That's quite creepy in itself. So there's a project that we're working on called the Vertex, which kind of takes those powers but puts them in the hands of kind of even more disturbing kind of villains. So that there's a sort of side kind of proliferation of ideas as well, but that's not to say that we couldn't kind of go somewhere with a mime herself, and as you say, she's a distinctive kind of antagonist, do you want to put it that way.
Feature creep films together. What are you guys working on together now? Are you moving forward with any projects? Have you got any features coming up, or are you just going to bang out some shorts for a bit?
Well, the idea of the partnership working together was to move towards a feature, and that's the goal. I mean, obviously, I've got other projects as a writer, but we kind of want to direct a feature together, and I'll write it, and it's just sort of finding the right idea and putting together a package, and starting on that long kind of trek towards production. So that's the goal, but that's not to say we won't do other shorts on the way there, and some of those shorts might be proof of concept. We did another short before the Mime called Chromophobia. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Chromophobia, Mark.
Yeah, so Chromophobia is, again, another creation from the mind of Gav Williams. And it's set in a world in which color it's a post-apocalyptic world, but color is now basically the enemy. Color is a virus, and color can infect and inhabit both the environment and potentially the people who are still alive in that world. And it's a 13-minute sort of post-apocalyptic cool short. It's going to be coming on to Alta, hopefully very soon, but we don't quite have a firm date for that yet. But it's done some festivals. We're really kind of proud of it. There's a trailer knocking about, which is on our website. And yeah, I think that's one of the kind of the projects that we'd like to do more on working forward. And yeah, I mean, we have, 2 or 3 different kind of sort of, routes into doing a feature, which we're all keen to kind of get towards. And definitely this is a step towards that. I think 2020, like for us, like for everybody else, has been one of those years where things have just not quite moved forward as kind of quickly as you would like. So I think, 2021 will hopefully, start the year, have these 2 shorts under our belt and out there so people can see them and start pushing towards a feature, definitely.
I see a lot of things going on with the sort of the lower end of the budget films wise, and I see a lot of indie films sort of creeping through now, and I read an article earlier about a guy who'd made an independent movie who basically cold called every cinema around and basically says, look, you're not showing anything, show my movie, and it worked for him. He got into a few. I can really see a buzz in 2021 coming for independent movies. So I think you guys, you'll be pushing forward in a big bad way. So hopefully we'll get to see more of that.
I think so. And I think what 2020 has also proven is that, cinema isn't the only route. I think everyone knew this anyway. But streaming and getting stuff into, in front of people, getting an audience for your film is not just cinema based now. Cinema is obviously the thing that a lot of people will aim for, and we'd like to do that too. But it's not the only way now. And, you're seeing a plethora of media coming through all these different channels now.
Yeah, but I think kind of to just talk a little bit kind of what our aspirations are. It's these sorts of things. I mean, the Mime, which is kind of still very visual and darkly comic. And Chromophobia, which is sort of a kind of horror sci-fi hybrid. I mean, that's the kind of things that we're interested in. That I'm about to kind of start a new script, sort of provisionally called The Pattern, which is about kind of an infectious kind of sort of mind virus, about a pattern that moves from person to person. And it's that kind of area of finding something which is sort of has like the Mime, a sort of simple hook in it, but allows us to go in these kind of sort of visually inventive kind of ways, or do something like a Wait for the Instructions, which it has quite a simple setup, but goes to these sort of demented and extreme kind of stuff places, because I feel it's really important not to kind of stuff have kind of guide rails on your imagination. The things that break through are the things that are strange and weird, and you can get on Twitter and go, oh my god, what did I just see? WTF, this is just insane. And I think it's really important to find those ideas that have cut through, that are strange and bizarre, and happily that's the way my brain goes. So strange you're going to get from the future.
I can testify to that.
Well, I did love Await Further Instructions. I thought the Mime was a fantastic little short, 2 minutes long. I could have done with another 10 minutes of it. I genuinely got a little tickle from it. I thought it was great. And you're talking about horror sci-fi. I've seen the trailer for Chromophobia. I watched Sleepwalking earlier today as well, which I absolutely adored. I just thought, what a concept. So I think you guys, I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with next, and I've got my eye on you because,
Thank you, Kevin. Much appreciated. Well, we'll be in touch. We'll let you know we've got something else to talk about.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Thanks very much, Kevin. We're really glad you enjoyed the Mime, and we'll send you a link for Chromophobia. You can have a watch of that too.
Oh, very nice, very nice. That's why I do this, you see, just so I get the perks. but honestly, guys, I love the Mime, and I'm glad they picked up on this, and I'm glad they went with you guys for this. So we're going to keep pushing it, and I'll try and put out as much as I can.
Thank you. I think people should keep. We're not quite sure what the plans are for it. Actually, screening I think 5 of the shorts, part of the kind of Bites of Horror, were chosen to be kind of screened on FX and FXX in the States this week. So that's going to be great. I think it's screening tonight on FXX. And also Wednesday and Saturday, and then on Halloween on Saturday, another short showing on FX. And eventually, I believe, but we're not 100% sure, they'll probably turn up on the Hulu YouTube channel as well. In the fullness of time, some have gone up already, not the Mime, but keep an eye out.
Awesome. And when it does everything, I'll be throwing it around on Twitter and on the Facebook and everything, and I'll do what I can, and especially now that I know you're a couple of Northeast boys. So,
away the lads.
Exactly.
Do not open the box.
Eddie, it's getting quite lonely out here.
Smile.
Don't worry, whatever happens, we got your back.